this is a different one. No complaint. Wow. I guess the complaint is they've replaced the alternator 3 times. I guess 2 times it's burned out and this time it feels hot, is what I'm told, but currently it's functioning. So they want to know what the major electrical problem is, as to why all of a sudden it decided to start eating alternators. I'm assuming, I just see it was double stickered. You know, I'm assuming it's just, welcome to my world. You know, it's just junk aftermarket parts would be my guess. But we're gonna just do some checks on it. Like I say, it currently works. We're gonna see if it's, you know, how the system can hold up, see the condition of the battery, you know, voltage drop on the negative and positive side, see what kind of current it's putting out, and we'll call it a day. Now, it is not abnormal for your alternator to be hot to the touch, particularly in the wintertime. You start it, it's always dark here. Your headlights are on, your heater's on, and your rear window defogger's on. You know, most cars are sitting there at an idle in that 70 amp range. You know, they're pumping out some current. There's gonna be some heat. So let's get right after it here. What are we dealing with? Cold cranking amps, 750. We'll do an electric test on it. We'll carbon pile this baby. We'll do a couple quick checks and then we'll move on. Looks like a relatively new battery as well. Date code is under there, something 25. February 2025, so almost a year old. That's a system test, battery test. Here we go, 12.48, it is flooded. Cold crankings claims to be 750. Above 32, it's gotta be pretty close. 858 cold cranking amps, wow. It's coming out above what it should be. According to that, let me, don't 100% trust our digital tester, A, because I didn't unhook the terminals, and B, I've seen it wrong too many times. Let's just throw a load on this battery, make sure we can put out, you know, 375 amps or so, and then we're gonna do our checks on the alternator. Because going old school here, remember, we want to be able to crank out at least half of our cold cranking amps, which it says it's supposed to be 750, which our other tester said it was way above that. All right, so 350, 375, right? 375 is half. Here we go. Put the pile to it. There's 340. She's jumped right up 375. She's still holding well above 10 volts. This battery is rock solid. Look at this thing. Oh shit. Oh, sorry. Didn't mean to swear. We're at 400. She went way up there. We're at 450. We're letting the smoke out of the box. That is one heck of a Walmart battery, let me tell you. Puts out way above its expected rating. Okay, well that's good. I ain't mad at you for that. That's pretty unbelievable. So that's good. Let's start it up and do, first thing we're gonna do, we're just gonna do some voltage drop checks. Make sure the alternator is running. This is not broke, it's just off. Make sure the alternator is putting out current. We have to have a good alternator to do, to check voltage drop. Okay, no current flow, no voltage drop. So we're gonna check to make sure our connection from the battery pod, I'm gonna go right in the center of this stud. Let me move you up here a little bit. Center of the positive stud, okay? That's coming out of the alternator. We're not gonna go on the nut or the wire or any of that. We're gonna go from the center of that to the center of the positive battery terminal. And what should we see there with our meter? Well, in a perfect world, where everything's perfect and life's great and all that stuff, it would be 0 volts, but that's not the case. There's connections, there's fuses, there's wire, there's restriction in this system. If we're under a half a volt, I would be super happy of voltage drop on this whole circuit, wherever it goes from here to by the time it gets here. If we're under a half a volt on a fully loaded alternator circuit, I'm gonna be totally happy with that. And then we're gonna do it on the ground as well. We're gonna go on the case of the alternator to the center of this battery post. And same thing. Perfect world, it would be 0, but we don't live in a perfect world, kid. Let me go get a meter. I'm gonna start it up. Contact. Everything's pretty cold. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna make sure it's charging. Let me get some different ends, I guess. We're basically no low. I think the blower motor was on at like 1 speed mark. Yeah, so we're putting out 14.69 volts. All right. That's pretty good. Best place to measure that though, right at the center of the terminal, just to be sure. 14.69er. Okay. I'm going right on that stud. I'm going to go right on the center of the battery terminal. We're at 1/10 of a volt, 0.1 volts. Okay, this is unloaded. I don't know how much current's coming out of this little guy. We're going to find out. Right now it's pumping out 35 amps, no load, we're going to call it, okay? 35 amps, no load. Or light load. And 1/10 of a volt of voltage drop. Alright? Now we're going to go on the ground side. Put that right on there. Now see here we got about 3/4 of a volt of voltage drop. That doesn't make sense. I probably have a bad connection. Might have to make a shiny spot because they paint these up. Or maybe it's true. Yeah, I think it may be true. Kind of interesting here that we have that kind of voltage loss on the negative side. Bear with me, folks. I just want to make sure I'm not making a mistake here. Let's think about this. So we're 0.6 volts lost on the negative, 0.1 volt there, so that's 0.7 volts different, okay? So whatever we're measuring here, and 14.7, when we measured at the alternator, it should be 0.7 of a volt higher. Is that what you're telling me? So we're at 15.4 at the alternator. Alternator power, alternator ground. We're 15.5 volts. But we're not 15.5 volts at the battery. All right, we're learning stuff here. Well, that's less than 1/10 of a volt being lost at the positive side. We've got way more loss on the negative side. Right to the alternator case right there. 0.6 of a volt, that's a lot, because this thing isn't loaded. Let me throw on some loads, let's see if that gets worse. All right. high beam's on, the blower's on high, the heated seats are on, rear window defogger. See that? We're losing almost 1 volt, 9 point, I can't tell if that's in focus or my eyes are on focus, 0.9. Let's see if that affected our positive side. Yeah, quarter of a volt, 0.22. I'm not super excited about that. All right, I don't get all wound up. But the fact that we're losing almost a volt across our ground, that's pretty serious business. There's our ground side again, 0.9, 9/10 of a volt. Well, where's that going? Well, I see a ground cable hooks to the fender over here. Let's just hook onto that. Always got to make sure you got a good connection. Oh, that's not bad. 0.018 volts to there. Let me get a pokey tool here. We're just going to go down the line. Remember, we want all of our connection needs to be good from the center part of the battery here, so we're just going to check the cable itself. So we're good there. I'm just kind of curious about something here. That's good. Our body ground seems to be good. It seems to be whatever this engine ground is. There. 0.8. Where does that go? Oh, well, even though this terminal is loose, it's not our problem because we proved it's not, because we don't have our loss at the terminal. 0.00 volts right there. Even though this is loose, that is not the problem. Let me look and see where this ground goes. Let me shut it off. Is it a problem? Yeah, it's a problem. It's not the problem. And I'm not saying that fixing this almost 1 volt of voltage drop is going to be the end all cure all. But it probably won't be, because that alternator is probably sitting over here cranking. Who knows if this thing gets worse when it gets hot too, you know what I mean? Let's see, that goes down. Well, that is a teeny tiny ground wire. And that goes somewheres. It goes somewhere. That is a super tiny ground wire. Look at this thing. It's like, it's bigger than 10 gauge, but not by much. This could be just a product of the current carrying capacity of that wire. Appears to be original. I really like to poke it. And there's the one going to the body is larger than the one going to the block. Kind of curious. Well, let me see if I can figure out where this thing goes. Where on earth did they get this thing? 07 Jeep? You ain't from around here, old son. I'll tell you that much. Ha! Alright, well, anyhow. There's the ground wire up there. Let's see, I can't see it. Right there where it bolts to the block. It looks clean. I'm gonna crack her loose while I ponder about what happened there. Getting a little whiff of frustration. I know how that goes. Anyhow, I'm gonna set you guys down. I'm gonna crack that loose, make sure that connection's clean. Oh, looks like she got new head gaskets. Anyhow, finish your thought in your sentence. I'm gonna make sure she's clean. And we may have to come down here. I don't know. I mean, if it doesn't work, then, you know, it just comes down to replacing that negative cable. Contact. Let's see what our charging voltage is now. 14.8. Let's load it up. I'll just do a preliminary check here. Bingo, bango, we got her fixed, old son. That'll make you happy, right? Make I think I can leave these on, can I? Go like that. Alternator case, battery center, fully loaded. 0.17 volts, perfectly acceptable, considering that this alternator is probably close to max capacity here. It's putting out 60 amps right now, 58 to 60. Blower motor's on high, high beams are on, rear defogger's on. So at 60 amps of output, we're only losing 0.16 volts. So that's good. And now, well, we can do this just like we did it before. So here, our voltage drop is 0.18. We'll round up 0.17. Okay, so that is 0.18. So we'll say 0.35 difference between battery voltage. We're going to say 14.75. We're going to add another 35 to that. So what's that? 1510. See what we have here. And we're at 15.13 volts at the alternator. Exactly what we expected. So 15.13 here, ish. Kind of bounces a little bit there. 14.8 at the center of the battery, and we know exactly where it's all gone. We're losing, well, at this point, 0.17 there, and 0.18 there. Perfectly acceptable. We're under a quarter volt of voltage loss at full load. Well, this alternator is sitting here cranking out 60 amps. Now, I guess the other thing we can do to finish this test, made in Malaysia, let's see. Let me get the part number on that. Let me see what Advance Auto says that thing's supposed to crank out. According to their website, 160 amps. I think that's probably a big ask. I don't know at what RPM. Usually alternators are around 2,000, I think. 2,000 alternator RPMs. And I mean, you can do the math. I mean, the crank pulley's that big, the alternator pulley's that big, and we're idling at 800. And it's probably at least 2,000. We don't have a photo tach, so we can't check it. Okay, so we're at 20 amps right there. I don't know if you guys can see that. Whoops. It appears to be that it's discharging, but it's not. It's because our clamp's on backwards. But it's the only way we can see it. Okay? Come on, man. There we go. 20 amps. Let's grab the old pile. I just want to see it squeeze a little more if we can. I'm not going to push it to the whole 160. We'll see if we can nudge it up over 100. Put a load on this battery. Here's a 100 amp load right there. 150, and that's only sitting at 80. I got a 200 amp load on the battery, and that went up to 90. Okay, I'm gonna let it recover here for a minute. I'm gonna bump the RPMs up just to see where that's at. Okay, we're at 2,000 engine RPMs. 23 amps. I'm going to put a little load on it. I'll load it up again here. I'm at 150 and it's putting out 150. Okay, I'm going to back off. I really labored that engine down. Good. So that was at at 2,000 engine RPMs, and you heard how it lugged the engine down, and we hit 150 amps on this alternator. Now this wire coming out of this alternator, I don't know how long it can carry 150 amps. We'd have to look on a chart to see, because that's a pretty dang small wire. All right, there we go. So, you're flirting with disaster over here, Chrysler. 150 amps, the minimum wire. I'm talking 12 inches long. Short wire would be 2 gauge. All right, which I believe that's what that is. 2 gauge is about a 1/4 inch diameter. The conductor, not the insulator. The conductor is about a 1/4 inch on 2 gauge, which I believe this here and the negative wire is about the same. They both look like they're probably 2 gauge. So, yeah, anyhow, let me grab the cap. Manufacturers never really seem to go above and beyond. We always run everything right on the verge of explosion. Oh, you didn't do an AC ripple test. That's fine. Customer doesn't have a complaint of battery dying overnight. Doesn't have any real indicators of pumping out AC current, but we could for AC voltage, we could check it for AC voltage. Be the last thing that we could do. So this is just some basic alternator checks. Now, is that gonna save it and make the Advanced Auto recycled junk from China any better? I don't know, but we fixed a problem. We saw that we had darn near 1 volt of loss just on the negative side, and then in combination with the positive side, we're a little over a volt and a tenth, somewhere's around there. That's too much. In all honesty, that negative wire on the side of the engine block wasn't that tight. As a matter of fact, I reached up there with a wrench initially, with the open end of the wrench, and was trying to wiggle it up on there, and I saw the bolt move. So then I got a socket and a ratchet, so I get on it. It was pretty close to the starter. I was kind of like playing operation up there, and it wasn't super tight. So took it off, looked clean, put it on, tightened it up. You guys see the results. Let's get a 10 mil, fix that. You know, the thing is that, like, if you went down to the Advanced Auto and had the kid come out in your parking lot and, you know, check your alternator, this thing's going to test good all day long. You know, they don't do voltage drop tests or anything like that. Come here, baby. Just want to open this up a little, make sure we're getting her down on all the way. Get that bolt lined up. Make sure she's down all the way. We'll snug-a-dug that up. Being that we had a connection off, we should probably recheck it, but we can. But anyhow, when you're doing your testing and you run across something like this where this terminal was loose, don't think that you found the problem just because, you know, you found a loose terminal. I mean, that could be easy. You find, like, oh man, thing's loose, you know, that's a problem. But our facts don't lie. The meter doesn't lie. Well, sometimes these little throwaway ones do. They'll lie to you. But you know, we didn't have any voltage loss from here to the loose connection. So yeah, it's a problem, but it's not creating any problems. I'm just going to double check real quick just because I had that terminal off. I want to make sure when I give it back to my customer we're good to go. Throw a bit of a load back on. What kind of load we talking about? About 50 amps right now. I'm just going to check the negative side here. Switch it back to volts. volts of voltage drop, negative to negative. Positive where I put the cap on. She's sitting here charging at 14.2, 14.3, 14.1. So it looks like it's regulating well. And I guess what we should find out is, I assume the alternator to keep up with the electrical demand. We have 0.7, 0.8, 0.6, or I'm not, 0.5, 6 amps going back into the battery here. Let me show you. So that's our current going into the battery at an idle with loads on. So we're still in the plus. You know, we're bouncing around between 5 to 8 amps going back into the battery. So as long as the current going in is greater than the current leaving, our battery is going to stay up to snuff. You know, and if we brought the RPMs up, that might change just a little bit. Show you. No, I can't. I took my depressor out. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter because at an idle, it can keep up with the loads, no problem. Try not to make a long-winded outro, but we're done. We're happy. Everybody's good. The car starts, runs, and drives. Alternator charges like it should. And we're less than a quarter of a volt of voltage drop on the positive and the negative side under high stress conditions, under a 70 amp output-ish. I think that was the number 60, 70, somewhere's in there. Either way, it's really good. And that's at an idle too. So I'm happy with that. You're never gonna see 0 volts. The only way you're gonna see 0 volts of voltage drop is if you have everything turned off, including the car and current flow, which that test is kind of silly. But that's why we do these tests. And that's why we just follow the facts and we don't just go cleaning ground. I can tell you this, that's a pretty common misconception I think that people have is, hey, there's something wrong with my car, I'm going to clean the grounds. I'll tell you right now, this car has probably over 100 grounding points without looking. We can start at G101 and get back to G501 in the back. And where does the stupidity end? Where do you stop cleaning grounds? And to what end? I would rather personally follow my facts. Check it. Do we have a need to even clean the grounds or find out which ground is bad? And we do that based on the facts. Because let's say we just measured here and we said we had 14.5 here, but I measured here and I had 16 there. Well, now what? Am I gonna clean the positive wires? Am I gonna clean the positive terminal and that? Am I gonna clean all the grounds? Where am I gonna go? Well, we know where to go because we did a voltage drop on both sides, negative and positive. All right, so pretty standard stuff. Lots of great info out there on the YouTubes about voltage drop and how it works and how your meter is essentially just measuring pressure differential. So that's why it works when we measure negative to negative, okay? And anytime there's connections, fuses, switches, conductors, wire, eyelets on your wire, any of that stuff is going to create voltage loss, 100%. So I 100% want to go in that comment and see you down there. At least your comment, Insta, Facebook. And just remember, viewers, if I can do it, you can do it. Thanks for watching.